Okay, so we're now looking at the other half of the dim room, dark room slash room. This is all the wet side that I work with. So we use, once again, these big metal units. And the reason I like these, and you may chuckle when I say this, but you know, I'm shrinking as I get older. And we're all going to shrink as we get older. So these wood sinks are made to come out. And they're light enough that three guys can lift them up and we can lower the bar. So if I got to the point that I couldn't, stand up properly, I could literally have a wheelchair come through my space here, and I could work in a wheelchair. We just lower the sinks down and it wouldn't stop me. And that is by design, because I am absolutely crazy about printmaking, and I'm going to do it till the day I die. So I'm designing my space to fit my long-term needs. We've moved to the west end of Toronto. We're in a very nice art district. The building is secure. We've invested a lot of work on the building, inside and out, to keep it going for as long as I can keep going. So you see, we put our screens that we make by hand. So this is for drying our fiber-based prints. There's safe boxes to hold our paper. There's a plastic squeegee and plexiglass to squeegee prints. You can see we use Thompson safe lights in here. So these are really great safe lights. They give a nice warm glow for when you're printing silver. I've had these custom sinks made. I've got even bigger ones sitting outside. I've got my big trough sitting outside, and you know, that they can sit outside in the wet because they're made of heavy-duty plastic. So the room is modular. So when I'm making really big prints, I'll be flipping this over and putting my developers in here. When I'm making smaller prints, I put my white trays and my developing trays on top. Why do I have something like this? When I want to empty my trays or leverage, I use it as a leverage bar. You won't think about this kind of stuff until you actually have a sink this size. So these are 12 feet long. So I got two 12-foot long sinks. I love the red rubber hose for dark rooms. You'll notice there's no copper, there's no stupid little temperature gauges all over it. It's ridiculous, okay? I use a very simple design. When I'm setting up a tray for the next day for murals, I set the water up overnight, and it comes to temperature in the room setting, 70 degrees, and you know, I'm using large amounts of liquid, so you know, you're not going to change the temperature of my liquids at any given time because they just stabilize to the room temperature. So you know, this is my potassium oxalate developer. So they're in these tubes. I keep them here because I reuse them and reuse them, and they fill in these trays, and then when we're done, we clean them out and they go here. Okay, so we're moving down. Right now we're set up for doing tricolor gums. So you'll see the water has a color. I won't change this water for 5 days until the whole project's done. Then we put this first bath, it's got the ammonium dichromate in it. We have a sludge bucket that it dries down, and then we take that sludge bucket to the city to disposal of. And in my workflow now, the only two things that are troublesome are the ammonium dichromate and the fixer itself, which gets recycled as well. So other than that, everything is just plain water that we use. So this is the first bath. Here's the second bath. We're now into the second room. I leave this area open. You know, you see down here I've got a big 2024 washer. I'm going to build a 30-40 washer like this, and so that we can wash big mural prints off to the side. Clyde Butcher has a video where one of his guys is doing washing big prints. I'm going to steal that idea off of Mr. Butcher down in Florida because it's a great idea. But this hard plastic with handles, you see I got handles on there. When you have 50 liters of chemistry in a tray, believe me, it's heavy. So you need these handles. You don't want to be sitting there with your fingers trying to lift up a tray. So we welded on these handles. In the wash tray, you'll notice that there's 2 rubber gloves in here. Well, they're actually plugging up holes we drill into the tray. So the water is dripping down through these holes while it feeds from the top. So it's not an archival washer, but it has that idea that stuff that's washing off immediately goes away and this stays clean. You know, and for all my work with gum, I use a series of brushes, and this is when I use these Japanese brushes, and these are what I brush off gum off of my prints when I'm working. So basically that's it. You'll see that I have a nice lighting system up here, right? So that's for when I want to look at prints. I actually mix I mix yellow tungsten, cool, ultra cool white, and then normal lights in 3 of them, so that I get a mixture of light. I've read the density here, so over time I get used to the density, okay? And then we'll go to the final area for what I do as far as printmaking shortly. Okay, so this is the last part of the wet side for this particular segment of the space. So, you know, where do you dry prints? So I you know, like for my gum and my platinums, you can hang them, but for silver gelatin, they have to be put on screens because otherwise they curl like crazy. If you hung them by themselves, it's complicated. So you need screens. So I've had about 30 of these screens made. They're basically you can have your frame shop make them. They'll make it's just like making a strapping. It's called strapping or bracing material, and then they brace it in the middle, and then you can go to Home Depot and you buy the black mesh, and then you get somebody at a frame shop or knows how to stretch canvas. So, you know, there's all these people that stretch canvas for painters. They stretch canvas for their inkjets. Apparently there are people that actually make canvas prints on inkjet. I mean, to me it's like I'd rather have my teeth pulled than do that. But there are people that do stretch canvas around bases. So you can find somebody that could staple in, and you end up with a kind of a taut, stable unit, right? So this can handle 30-40. So my platform is 30-40 in this facility, and it will not be bigger for wet prints. I just don't want to do them bigger. I want to keep 30-40 and under. So here we have an 11x14 DeVere enlarger, and we're not going to talk about the enlarging side of this device, but we're going to talk about versatility. So we cut a hole through the ceiling so the head goes up, but the reason I kept the big DeVere enlarger, not only is it a beautiful piece of equipment, and it was given to me by BGM Color Labs, my buddies where I worked. I actually saw this enlarger come into the facility at BGM. It was apparently over $85,000 when they bought it. It's the only one that I'm aware of in Canada. It's not braced yet, but it's got a unique system where you put, let's say you get 2x4s. So all you have to do is get long 2x4s. You put them on the baseboard, and then you put your screen on top. There's your level 1. Then you put blocks, which you see all these blocks here. You put them on all 4 corners, and depending on how many prints you do. So sometimes I'm doing 30 to 50 to 60 silver gelatins from the Lambda or from, you know, digital negatives. So we drop it down, and we can go right. I've had them stacked up to here. So I've got, like I said, 30 of these. And every shelf there's a 2x4 section. You put your prints here. After you squeegee them, you put on your next layer. And then you grab 4 more blocks and you put the 4 blocks on the corner. You squeegee your print, put the prints down, another layer. Just keep on building a big multi-layered sandwich, okay? So this is the multi-layered sandwich idea. The idea of the 2x4 is to allow air to come through, which helps dry the prints. If you don't have this layer and if they're very tight, they'll never dry, because in the middle section there'll be so much humidity because of all the wet prints that you have that the middle section will never dry. It may take 2 or 3 days. So we have good air circulation coming through, and overnight these dry. And you know, I have a hot press upstairs which will eventually come down to my dry side over here, and that will be for pressing out these prints. But right now it's upstairs, but I'm eventually going to bring it downstairs because I think it deserves to be done in the working area down here. So anyways, that's the wet, and that's the wet, and that's the dry side, and that's the video.